created the heaven and the earth. And the earth
Here's Stinky Logistics, the man who always wanted to be the boss. No argument, he is the boss. Inventor of Xmas Files, the hottest game on the market. At least, that's what everyone thought. What you need to know now is that him and his company, Logistics Corp, are already worth megabucks. But he's still putting the screws on his programmers to finish the sequel, Xmas Files 2. That's just typical of him, never satisfied. Not only is he charging rip-off prices to millions of kids and parents everywhere to buy Xmas Files version 1 this Christmas, he's gonna hit them with Xmas Files 2 on Boxing Day. Trouble is, the game's got a bug. In fact, it's crawling with them. It gets stuck. What's more, you get stuck in it. Now, Clive, his programmer, is as near to a genius as you can get inside a human brain fed with regular vitamins. Nice guy, really cool, but he needs to get himself a life. Even he can't clean up the code in the 2 days before Stinky wants to launch it on the world. And the thing is, Stinky being Stinky, however many megabucks he's worth, not a lot of it trickles down to his nearest and dearest. His sister Emily, her husband Bob, and their son Tim.
You want all day tomorrow, I presume?
Call me old-fashioned, but Charles Dickens's old classic The Christmas Carol still makes me go all soft inside. Tim was hooked on it too, which is why he watched it at every opportunity.
And yet you don't think me ill-used when I pay a day's wages for no work. Sir, it only happens on Christmas Day. A poor excuse for picking a man's pocket every 25th of December. But I suppose...
Right now, Bob and Em needed to interrupt him to switch channels, because his Uncle Stinky was big, big news. It didn't really matter, though. Tim knew the story of A Christmas Carol off by heart, and he couldn't help seeing more than a hint of Scrooge in his rich uncle's tight-fisted attitude to his family. None of the money came their way.
It's broken all records, and it's already the biggest-selling computer game ever. Now, Xmas Files, the game parents love to hate, is set to break the bank for Megabyte Core as they pay a reported £1 squillion to the Logistics Core owner, Stinky Logistics, for the rights to the game. Kids everywhere are going to be desperate to see whether it's in their Christmas stockings. Meanwhile, one thing's for sure, Mr. Logistics is going to be having a very Merry Christmas.
Stinky's idea of the season of goodwill is all about wads of cash. And the deal he's announcing to the waiting world is the kind of stocking filler that gives him a kick. On the stroke of midnight, Megabyte Core will transfer a cool £1 squillion to his account. Not bad, eh?
His mission, he says, is to bring joy and fun to households throughout the country. Now, with Megabyte's help, he's going global.
See what I mean? He didn't care. He'd do anything to rake off a bit more. But get this. The game wasn't even his idea. let me take you right back and explain what happened. As far as Tim was concerned, Stinky hadn't brought a lot of joy and fun to their household. Quite the opposite, in fact. I don't know whether your dad ever gets on your back for things like sleeping too much, living in total squalor with no natural light or fresh air. You know, all that stuff. Tim's dad wasn't too bad. In fact, Bob was only trying to be helpful when he said he'd show the game Tim was making to his Uncle Stinky. The joke was that for all his millions, the only thing Stinky ever gave Bob was the security guard's job at logistics. I think when he ran the word generosity on his spell checker, he corrected it to tightwad. Anyhow, back then the banks were after Stinky. Money was short. Bob couldn't have picked a worse time to call on his brother-in-law. Not that there was ever a good time to call on Stinky. So, in walks Bob and Stinky plays it cool. What can his scumbag nephew Tim possibly come up with that'll shake the world, after Stinky himself has spent a lifetime in search of the perfect game? From where Stinky was sitting, this was just another feeble attempt by his loyal employee and brother-in-law Bob to get promotion. What? But just to get rid of Bob, Stinky agreed to show it to Clive, and the rest is history. That's how it happened. Now that Tim had realised what Stinky had done, he took it very badly. It also hurt Emily, Stinky's sister. She deserved better. Stinky, stinking logistics. He'd stitched them up. He didn't share a penny of his success with Bob, Em or Tim. Nonetheless, she was still pathetically keen for her brother to come round and join in a nice family Christmas. About as likely as an email from the three wise men, I'd say. Let's rejoin the world of Stinky Logistics, a Christmas-free zone. Nice family Christmases weren't on Stinky's agenda. Stinky had other things on his mind. Even a desperate message on his answer phone from Emily cut no ice. You see, what I'm trying to tell you, if you haven't got it already, is that Stinky was one sad man. He was a loner. A lifetime trying to make it as the computer game's king meant not a lot of time for hanging out, not much time for his mates, and not much time for anything except computers, logistics, and money. He makes out he's cool with his own company, hates people, hates Christmas, or to rename himself Scrooge. Well, things are about to change, because even though Clive warned him the game was bugged, Stinky's got nothing better to do with his lonely Christmas than try it out. Stinky is about to go on a little adventure inside his own game. When Clive said the game was bugged, he wasn't kidding. Something about fractal inversions collapsing the dimensional algorithms. I bet that's what he says to all the girls. Anyway, 1 minute Stinky's taking a pleasant diversion from everything he hates about Christmas. You know, friends, families, celebration, goodwill, all that stuff. And the next, he's got himself digitised. And the thing about Xmas Files 2, same as 1, only better 3D, is that once you're in, you can't get out unless you complete the 3 levels. Christmas past, Christmas present, and Christmas future. If Tim had only known, he'd have cracked up. Stinky's stuck in his own game. Serves him right. Stinky was starting to lose his cool. That is, until he'd realised that he could spend Christmas playing the ultimate computer game It's weird how it all connects up. Tim was playing some retro arcade games himself, without the first clue that his uncle was right inside them. As it happens, just for a change, Tim's computer crashed and somehow corrupted Stinky's game. One minute, Stinky's meandering through Christmas past, and the next he's stuck inside an antique shoot-'em-up. Not much of a battle for Stinky, more like a stroll down memory lane than a race down the information superhighway. I don't think he minded fighting the aliens as much as what he saw next. Don't ask me how Clive did it, but version 2 didn't only take you into the past, it took you into your own past. Yes! Not that Stinky's Christmas past made great viewing. Everyone else was having a good time, while Stinky was all on his own, trying to create some action with a few lousy kilobytes of memory in black and white. Even at that age, he dreamed of fame, of fortune, of everyone flocking to the feet of the mighty Stinky. Gotta hand it to him, ignored his family, ignored his mates, glued to his computer even way back then. OK, it's not everyone's idea of Christmas, but he knew what he wanted. He knew that one day they'd all look up to him. Stinky, they'd say, this is just mega cool. And that's what counts. It's that important.
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Level 2, Christmas present. The rubber hits the road and it just gets better for Stinky. These road race games are way ahead of racing boring little plastic cars on the living room floor with the family. Well, so Stinky thought. Meanwhile, the clock was ticking towards Bob and Em's quiet family Christmas.
Aww.
Emily couldn't help it. She worried about her brother sitting bored and lonely in his luxury flat. A charming Christmas scene? I think not. Great graphics, great action. Stinky could handle it too. He'd even give Tim a run for his money, if he ever took on the challenge. But the best was yet to come. This may be Christmas present, but Christmas presents didn't figure in Stinky's thinking. He was about to check out his biggest Christmas present ever. Megabyte had come good. True to their promise, 1 squillion big ones deposited into Stinky's account bang on the dot of midnight. This was Christmas big time.
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Christmas past had been okay. Christmas present had been pretty cool for Stinky. But what about Christmas future? Feeling flush and not exactly short of cash, Stinky hit the next level of the game, the future. Now, I don't know if this was all Clive's doing, or whether the game had developed a mind of its own, or whether something else was going on. The thing was, that in Christmas future, Stinky didn't just see his future self checking out the cyber cash card hole in the wall. He saw something else. He saw something truly awful in that game. Something he's never told anyone, anywhere, ever. 50 mega squillion in his account, but he still wasn't satisfied. His obsession with wanting more and more caught up with him right there and then. What Stinky saw was his own death. Stinky had seen wealth beyond even his wildest dreams and seen his worst nightmare. Now the monitors had gone mad, he was seeing the world from the other side, and what he saw frightened him. He'd always known he'd stitched Tim up, and now he saw the result. Tim had given up on life. No! Stinky desperately wanted to help. It was a feeling he'd never experienced before, and to be honest, it made him feel bad. Awful even. Not only that, it looked like his whole family had hit rock bottom. But as he listened, he discovered that Bob and Em weren't down and out. They were on the way up, moving somewhere much nicer than their old flat, spending Stinky's squillions, their inheritance, Stinky's inheritance. Was it a dream? Was it a hallucination? Was it the effect of too much curry? Whatever it was, Stinky was back. And whatever happened to him, you're going to find this hard to believe, but Stinky came out of that game a changed man. Weird or what? Not that Tim knew anything about Stinky's change of heart. All he knew is what he'd overheard Bob tell Em, what Bob had overheard Stinky tell Clive, if you see what I mean. You know, all about how Stinky's new game would stitch up Megabyte Core. So it seemed perfectly reasonable for Tim to contact Megabyte and supply them with some information that Stinky might just have forgotten to mention. Here was Stinky saying Happy Christmas to people, saying anything to people other than work harder and gimme, enjoying the idea of Christmas, giving people presents, feeling cool with their company. Those are things Stinky Logistics never does, and he was doing them all. This wasn't the Stinky everyone knew and hated. This wasn't the Stinky who told you you'd parked in his space, so he'd rammed your car out of the way, or complained that your cat had made too much noise and disturbed his beauty sleep, or said he wished your kids just didn't exist. That's why Stinky's newfound warm generosity and spirit of the season scared his neighbours witless. It just didn't compute. He even gave Clive the week off. First time he'd had off in years, just like that. This was the new Stinky, all right. Warm, generous, caring, considerate, all words which till yesterday would have made Stinky spit. Not that Tim knew any of this. He tracked down Megabyte on the web and got a message ready to send. A message that would send the whole logistics core and Stinky Logistics crashing more spectacularly than when Tim tried to run Doomquake on his ancient PC with no disk space and not enough RAM. He was going to let Megabyte know about Stinky's plot to stitch them up. The message was ready to go. Of course, for Bob and Em, this was going to be another nice, quiet family Christmas at home. They knew nothing about Stinky's newfound generosity. Nothing. That is, until they were bulldozed by boxes and bags of presents from the old skinflint himself. At first, Bob and Em were suspicious. Was Stinky drunk? Well, not unless someone else had bought the drinks. But Stinky didn't know anyone.
Oh.
No, something had happened to him. Something very dramatic. He even had a special present for Tim. Where was he? As you can imagine, Tim was shocked to see his tight-wad, unsociable uncle appear in his pit, all smiles and full of the spirit of the season, and all ready to give him a limited edition set of Xmas files. He was even talking about making it up with him and cutting him in on the action. Tim hardly liked to admit what he was up to. Whatever Stinky saw in that game was mighty powerful stuff. He said he was going to either scrap Xmas Files 2 or get it fixed and give it out as a free upgrade. Free? That was another word that didn't compute in Stinky's spell checker. He was serious, though. Close call for Stinky. Tim stopped the message just in time, but Stinky hadn't quite finished his roller coaster ride. Even now, there were presents for everyone, more than they'd ever seen. Stinky joined in like he'd never been away, but both him and Tim were itchy to check out the game.
What can I give him, for as I am? If I were a shepherd, I would bring a lamb. If I were a wise man, I would do my part. Yet what can I give him? Give my heart.
No one saw what Stinky had seen. Stinky wasn't even sure whether he had seen it. What he knew now was the best gift he could give was himself. The same way Jesus gave himself to the whole world. Over the years to come, Stinky gave much more than just computer games to Tim, to his friends, and to the people outside. And that was the story of computer games genius Stinky Logistics, who got trapped in his own game, lost his cool, lost all his hair, and got himself a life.
If I were